Welcome back to the Badger247 show, part of the 247 Sports Network. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by Badger247.com writers John McNamara and Nick Osen. Happy Halloween, boys! How are we feeling about, spooky season this year, Nick?
Marco, happy Halloween, man. I actually love this holiday. Usually like to, enjoy some of the good candies and things. I'm taking it a little bit easy this week. Got the wisdom teeth out. But, man, I love it. We've got some fun things to talk about. Obviously, no game this week, so we're going to delve into some other things. And I know Mac is, low-key a good holiday guy as well.
I love Halloween. I'm a huge horror movie guy. If you guys want to break down your favorite horror movies or your favorite horror movie franchises, I'll stick around after we hit the off button here. I love Halloween. Big holiday for me. I try to stay away from the candy, but I love the movies.
That's awesome.
I do my best to stay away from the candy, but I'm married to an elementary school teacher, and her kids always give her candy. She's not a really big candy person, so she always brings it home, and I always end up eating way more than I should. John, not a big horror movie guy, but I do watch Rocky Horror Picture Show every Halloween. That's my personal tradition.
That's not up my wheelhouse, but hey, I can respect that.
The time warp. I mean, come on, like Wisconsin hockey awesome. Time warp. Like that is how it all started with me. So, I'm we could talk about the horror movies a little bit later. Wisconsin football's been a bit of a horror movie this year. Let's face it, on the field. But Nick put out the call for some questions on our message boards. If you are not subscribed to Badger247.com, why? Just get there, get in there, get subscribed. The message boards are always popping. And, like I said, Nick put out the call. We got some great questions from our board members per usual. So let's start with, there are a couple questions here from the boards about Luke Fickell and the roster. Tahoe Badger wants to know what the roster looks like in 2026, assuming that Fickell is the coach. Do the young players are, Posa, Cooper, Carter, Hilton, etc. Are they the kind of guys who can make a good foundation? So let's start there, Nick. All signs do point to Luke Fickell being the coach in 2026. So I guess sort of leading off of that, what do you think the biggest difference on the roster, the biggest difference that the roster will look like in 26?
Yeah, Perko, I just really want to say briefly, thank you for, the message board shout. I just want to say this month has been incredible on there. And obviously, I'm going to add some of these to the mailbag. I'm sorry. It's been a little bit behind, but we've got a lot of other content. So, you're spot on, Perko. I think that Mac and I have, very fortunately and gratefully been all over this with the Fickell news. I think that as we sit here on Halloween, unless something just kind of comes by the wayside and really, there's like a total implosion or something like that, I expect Coach Fickell, most of the staff, recruiting department, all that to be back in 26. And from what I understand, again, it's never a boilerplate, blanket, 1,000% Mac or anything like that, in terms of everybody's going to do what everybody does. But I'm very fortunate to have gotten to know a lot of these, players, families, made relationships. There is still a crap ton of belief in Fickell and this program. And I think when you do look at, hey, what are some positives we can take, right? I know it's been a really tough season. There's no denying that. But you just look last week against the top 5-6 team on the road, these young guys are here and they're ready, guys. So I say that really to say, Perko, I expect, I guess I'll go a little bit backwards. This 2026 class, I think as we sit here today, I think most of it stays intact. I think they're going to add another guy or two, maybe a couple of guys you're worried about, but still, I do think double digits at least stays intact. I think 2025, a vast majority stays together. A lot of these guys are already in the two deep, sometimes starting. And then 2024, I think a lot of them, especially O-line, some of the pass catchers, tight ends, guys I'm thinking of, I think that it's really turning into their roster. That's truly what I believe. Of course, they will hit the portal. Of course, they will need to make some additions as you need to stay competitive, but that's truly what I believe, guys. And when you do look at positives and if all these things stay the same, I believe you are looking at that foundation for a year that I know we can all agree on. If it is Fickell and this staff, it's a huge 2026.
Yeah, I would say that every team's going to go through some natural attrition, right? And I think Wisconsin's going to be a little bit different because of where that program's at. But like Nick talked about, like you talked about too, Matt, it's the expectation is that now Luke Fickell makes it into year 4, and I think that's important with the locker room. I mean, whether you agree with it or not, right? It's important to have that I guess long-term messaging to the locker room and then long-term messaging to that 26 class. I guess something that I'll add is that, this is a roster that's not necessarily top heavy, but there's 30-ish seniors. So you're going to see a big chunk of them off. And with that, not all those guys are playing, right? But the playing time potential for the younger guys, I think, is going to be evident. I think that there's going to be more money available. Chris McIntosh just came out and said it, and I think everyone wants to know, what that's going to look like. Where's it going to come from? How much it's going to be? I don't know specifics of that, but I do know that more money will be coming available for the current roster and for the 26 class and beyond. But guys are also going to have to make some business decisions of, if you want to enter the portal, how attractive are you, right? I mean, there's a few guys out there that I think could absolutely play at the Power 4 level, but other guys are going to have to decide if they want to stay at this Big Ten level or if they want to go down a level, because I don't know many that are going to enter the portal that will be a quote-unquote Big Ten caliber player, a Power 2 player. So if you're looking for that early playing time, you want to bump down a level, We've seen that happen, but I don't know many guys, and there are a few, right? But many guys are going to be able to say, kind of an apples for apples, I'm going to wind up in the Big Ten or the SEC or whatever that might be on this current roster.
Yeah, I think
that's a great point.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to speculate on specific names here because, again, it's just speculation, and we don't want to be, throwing out things willy-nilly that we're not very sure about. And, that's why I love working with you guys, because you guys are proper reporters who, get multiple sources on all of your facts and information. In my opinion, I think that next season is going to be – the success will be determined, I think, on the growth of these 24 and 25 classes, right? Like, we've seen a couple of these guys start to really step up. I've been really impressed with Grant Stack. Like, I've been really impressed with the way that he has grown into, effectively TE2 on this team. Yes, the injury to Tucker Ashcraft definitely aided in that, but I don't think that changes the fact that he looks like he is a Big Ten player to me. Like, he looks like he's someone who is, especially if he is able to continue to grow, especially as a pass catcher, he's someone who can be a real big difference maker. I think we've seen Emilio Agard as well, have some real flashes out there. Yeah, he's made some freshman mistakes. He's a redshirt freshman, but he's made some freshman mistakes out there, but he's also shown that he can be really competitive. I do think that they need a couple more guys from that class to really show growth. We talked about a couple of these offensive linemen, whether it's Emerson Mandel, Cubberly, seen a little bit of Ryan Corey. But I think that if Fickell is going to have a successful 2026 season, it's the 2024 class that really needs to really start making an impact at multiple positions and multiple levels for the team to continue to move forward. Going on top of that, you quickly touched on the recruiting class there, and I want to dig a little bit deeper. There's been some buzz around, not a lot of, but a handful of, especially the more notable recruits, whether it's Amari Latimer, Jaden Pettit, DJ Ba, taking other visits, going to getting interest from other schools. Nick, you said you think the majority of that class will stay in place. Who out of the guys who are verbally committed right now would you be most concerned about flipping?
Yeah, Perko, it's a great question. I mean, I don't mean to be, kind of like rainbows and butterflies right now. I really don't. So basically, I will touch on something we reported this week, which I was very proud of. We'll keep some of the details of the board, but Coach Fickell had a Zoom with the class on Monday and just checking in with, some folks around the program, some families and things. Like, I think that went overwhelmingly well. So I say that to say, I guess I'm not predicting these guys to flip, but like you said, if I'm most worried about them, I don't love seeing more visits for Amari, right? I don't love seeing DJ Bob potentially locking up another official visit. after, recently seeing, I think, Nebraska and Georgia Tech, certainly, kind of in the mix there. That's been an interesting one. I feel like Mac and I have been talking about that since damn near late July, early August. So that's interesting. Jaden Petit, he's arguably the highest ceiling player in the class. And I've been checking in on that one. As we sit here in this moment, I still feel pretty good. There's some intrigue with Jack Janda taking some other Big Ten visits. Our guy Alan True reported that. However, we reported this week that EJ Whitlow will be seeing him this week. So not just Nate Letton, but meaning the Badgers are open to him potentially playing D-line here. I think that helps. I believe the guy's an NFL player on the D-line from what I've seen in the last year and a half. So all that to say, I think those are some of the similar names you mentioned. But in this moment, compared to maybe 2 weeks ago with the OSU buzz with Amari and then, us reporting the Jaden Pettit Oklahoma visit, in this moment as we get into November, I'm feeling a little more solid, but with the qualifier that as Mac and I have said, are we expecting this team to go 6-6 now? No, but I do think they need to get ideally another win or two, and without a doubt, show some real progress against some of these teams to just continue to show that foundation going forward, Perkins.
John, let's move. Oh, sorry. I don't want to interrupt you there, bud.
No, you're good. This is a lot of, some guy, when we get these guys that go on the record, they talk and they say one thing, what I would advise the fans for doing this for a very long time. When a kid shows up to a different campus, that kind of tells you all you need to know about, what's going on. So just because a kid visits doesn't mean he's going to flip. But, I think you are showing your intentions there about, where your recruitment might lie if you are taking other visits, right? And I would back that up by saying I think it's smart for these kids to take visits if that's truly what's in their best interest. Every recruitment's a little bit different, right? And Wisconsin has some high-profile guys that should be exploring every option they have. Now, I do think that, like I said earlier, Wisconsin can fall back on saying, this is our plan, this is our vision, and this is the decision we've made in terms of the future of the program, at least into 2026. That should certainly help them. And as they get into those conversations, be able to answer some of those questions. But look, these kids aren't signing until December 3rd. November is going to be a very interesting month. Some guys have visited places, other guys have more visits planned. So, I trust where they wind up in terms of visits, not necessarily what comes out of their mouths or over the next 4 weeks. I'll finish by saying Wisconsin might actually benefit a little bit by that earlier date, right? Usually it's later December. It's December 3rd, so you're kind of minimizing the time that they have to potentially go to a different school or potentially flip. That might work in Wisconsin's advantage, but I think it's kind of all hands on deck as Wisconsin looks to keep this class together as much as they possibly can. I give them a lot of credit so far for what they've been able to do in terms of what we've seen on field, being able to keep this group together. Like Nick mentioned, DJ Ba. I mean, we've been talking about him visiting other schools since July, and he's still in the mix right now. That could change. We'll see. But credit to the recruiting department and the coaching staff for largely keeping this group together during a really, really challenging season.
Definitely. Well, let's flip over to the basketball court. We've seen Badgers have a couple of exhibitions since we last talked, both Oklahoma and UW-Platteville. Lost to Oklahoma. They played a lot of guys. And since that time as well, we've seen the dismissal of Elijah Gray. And so I'll throw this to you first, John. Awman2, another great username here on the board, wants to know what the loss of Elijah Gray will mean to the team on the court.
Yeah, some people have been kind of building this up like Wisconsin lost this key piece, and I'm not trying to downplay Elijah Gray, but Nick, you hopefully can back me up here. I don't think he was a guy that was going to be in the rotation, right? I don't think it's good to lose a piece. An experienced guy that could probably spell the 4 if you needed him to, maybe the 3. But if Elijah Gray was on this team and he didn't have a role, I don't think that would be surprising, right? So I think it hurts more in terms of practice. Right now, you go into practice with 14 guys instead of 15. I was hoping Greg Garver was going to come up with hey, let's find the best kid on campus, walk on 15th guy type deal. I don't know if he's decided that or not. Maybe Brad Davison suits up a little bit more, get a little Joe Krabenhoff, a little Sharif Chambliss. So they got some guys that could play there. But, in terms of what Gray was projected to do, I guess I could be wrong here, but he's not a guy that to me was maybe in the top 10. He's not a guy that was going to see significant minutes. So some people put out there like this big blow. I think it's more of a, hey, let's figure out what we have to adjust in practice as opposed to what we're going to have to do in games.
Yeah. I mean, I won't add a ton just because, I know we got another great one, and Mac, you hit it really well. But I mean, basically, this whole thing was a little bit weird. I was reporting on that Wisconsin was kind of down to like a couple people for that last spot, essentially around the time. And, Gray, we've been at practices, John, and I mean, whether it's because he hasn't been high in the rotation or he was a little dinged up or a little bit of everything, man, he hasn't done much. And I don't think it was guard saving face that the top 4 post guys that we've seen have been the top 4. So I wouldn't look at this as a huge loss. I like Mac's point about, practice injuries, like that can always kind of add up type of thing. But yeah, kind of a weird deal. I'm personally not expecting them to try to, add a 15th. I mean, hey, I'd go back to grad school. I still got my hoops eligibility, but it would be kind of an interesting thing. I like the top 4 that they have right now at the post, but you certainly need to kind of rely on some of that youth now, Bialuskis and Garlock. Because obviously those guys are talented, but they're young. So it's going to be really, kind of intriguing, but I don't think it's a killer loss at this point.
Nick, you're going to always thought of you as more of a combo guard than a post, but we'll see how that goes. But speaking of that basketball team, Olip and C06 wants to know the number one thing you're looking for the basketball team to improve on from the exhibition games into the regular season. I'll throw it over to you first, John.
Well, not to take a whole lot from the exhibitions, right? You got a chance to play Oklahoma, and I think Oklahoma's going to be a real good team. Then you play Platteville. Platteville's a D3 team. They're a very good, very, very good D3 team, but I think you'd maybe like to escape out of that a little bit more comfortably. I just think that, similar to last year, that you're going to ride some of these hot nights from Beyond 3 and some of these cold nights from Beyond 3. So that's just something that I think fans are going to have to kind of live with, kind of go through those ups and downs, those waves in terms of their shooting. You want to see a little bit more from Nolan Winter. I think, again, I think if you want to criticize him for what he showed against Oklahoma, sure. I mean, that it's an exhibition game. But once they get into kind of that heart of the Big Ten season, you're going to rely on him quite a bit. I'm a little concerned about the post depth there. And again, that's not an Elijah Gray thing. That's just kind of how this roster is currently constructed. But I do think there's going to be some nights where they're going to be able to score a ton of points that might be able to cover up, the deficiencies they have in terms of, defense, rebounding, stuff like that. I think my final takeaway from, again, small sample size, the pace that Nick Boyd plays with is exciting, right? And I think he's going to be able to do some stuff for Wisconsin that we really haven't seen in a while in terms of the speed and the way he tacks to the rim. Some of it, maybe a little better decision making in terms of when he chooses to do that, but he's lightning quick. And I think he's going to be a great fit for this team. A guy, when it's crunch time, I think you can put the ball in his hands. He's going to be able to go potentially get a bucket for you, or at least get to the free throw line. So there's some good, there's some bad, but you expect that from just about every college basketball team as we head into November here.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I've taken away, obviously I wasn't at these games. I'm just, I'm being box score Perko over here. But these guys aren't afraid to shoot it from 3, right? I mean, you look at a guy like, like Austin Rapp, he took 9 threes against Platteville. John Blackwell was obviously a little bit off, only going 1 for 5. But I think that these guys, as they learn to play together are going to get more comfortable in their spots, right? And finding their spots and finding where, Blackwell's going to start finding, okay, where do these guys want to get the ball? Where are they most comfortable from three? And I think you can get that a little bit in practice, but I think it's really in the game where you start to see where guys, okay, I know Austin Rapp, let's say, wants it in that right-hand short corner, right? I know he wants to take it. I'm just making up spots, right? But, okay, so how can we get him over there into that spot where he is most comfortable? We've seen, especially with transfers, it takes time. Like, it takes time for these guys to coalesce and play together. They haven't been on campus together for 3-4 years practicing, knowing how, each other, like to move, like to cut, and getting that timing down. It's going to take a little bit of time. That being said, I do think that the ceiling is still pretty high for this team. And so I am still cautiously optimistic about the direction of the basketball program here. But John, you mentioned Halloween earlier, and Justin Urban, Nick, wants to know, what is the best or most memorable Halloween costume you ever wore, and what's your favorite Halloween candy? So let's start with the costumes first. Nick, what's your favorite Halloween costume?
Yeah, great stuff from our guy Justin. I'm going to give two here. Okay, I like kind of the sibling or couple types of things. So when I think I was 6, my little brother was 3. I was Woody from Toy Story, and he was Buzz. I think that's a great one. And then one of my first Halloweens with Vivi, my now fiance. I'll just show you guys this picture. I was Sully from Monsters Inc., and she was Boo. Obviously the girl. So I thought that was pretty great. Mac, what about you?
I don't know if I should say this here. Perkle, you might have to cut this out. But, when I was a student at Wisconsin, one year I went as Booker Stanley from Mifflin. Ooh. And I'll just kind of leave it at that.
That's for us old heads. Nick has no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, so
I love it. I
went as Mifflin Booker Stanley. I think it went well. We had the jersey, we had the costume went into, all in good fun. I was student at Wisconsin. I love Mifflin, and Halloween was big. I mean, we had some good Halloween times.
Our era of Halloween, John, I think was the best. Then it got a little bit too controlled as far as So maybe we should probably reminisce with Bernie, not with Nick. He's too young. Yeah, he's such a baby. I mean, my personal favorite in Madison, I think it was my super senior year. My cousin was in town. He'd never been to Madison before. He came for Halloween. My cousin's been my best friend since we were born. We're the same age, and we went to a costume shop, like a theater costume shop. And we were able to rent stuff, and we just went out and just grabbed random things and put them together. He ended up as we called him Psychedelic Willy Wonka. He had this rainbow swirl jacket and a weird top hat. I made myself into some sort of sea captain, which was really fun. But after that, in grad school, pretty much every year I own a kilt, and so every year I went as William Wallace because it was cheap and easy. All I had to do was get some blue and white face paint and paint my face up, put on a kilt, and wear nothing else, and it was fantastic. So those are mine. As far as Halloween candy, I mean, my favorite candy in the world is Swedish Fish. It's not really a Halloween candy per se, but I'm a Swedish Fish guy through and through. As far as Halloween candy go, I really love Crunch Bars. I mean, don't get me wrong, Kit Kats are great and stuff like that, but I only get Crunch Bars, like the little mini crunches on Halloween, and I adore those. Nick, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Perks over here, man, making me laugh and hungry, dude. I mean, I can't eat this stuff yet. I got Sour Patch Kids, kind of like Swedish Fish, a staple. And then if I had to pick kind of special to Halloween, there was this house that I'd always go to when I was younger that always gave kind of the huge candy bars. So the
so
huge
you were trick-or-treating in those high income neighborhoods.
A couple of them. But no, man, I love it. These questions have been awesome too.
John, favorite Halloween candy?
I like Swedish Fish. I'd probably go peanut M&Ms.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah,
peanut M&Ms.
If any of you had said Mounds, I would have kicked you off of this recording.
No.
That is just wrong. Okay, we're going to finish up here, though, like we always do at this time of year, talking a little bit of Wisconsin high school football. We had the first round of the playoffs last weekend. No real big surprises in that D1 bracket. I would say, it did end up going chalk outside of De Pere, beating Nina in overtime 28-27. And I guess, Verona over Pulaski was technically, as far as seeding goes, an upset, but I think we all kind of knew that Verona was the favorite there in that one, and they proved it, winning 51-0. So let's talk a couple of these second round matchups here, John. Speaking of Verona, I think that they have an interesting game against Franklin right now. I mean, you look at the combined score of Verona's victory and then Franklin's victory over Riverside Golden Mirror. Like, those teams combined to win 116-6. So I think this one should be a little closer. What are you looking for in that game, and what other games are sort of catching your interest here in the second weekend of matchups in the playoffs?
Yeah, that should be a good one, right? I mean, Franklin rolling right now, undefeated. Verona, I don't want to say they're down, because they're not down, but they don't have that Trey Poteet.
They don't have Trey Poteet.
They don't have Trey Poteet, right? I mean, but they do have, some dudes on both sides of the ball. I think, Ethan McIntosh is the big prospect from that school. Obviously, has the Wisconsin offer. So I think that'll be a real good matchup. I do think Franklin probably advances there. Some other good ones in D1, Kimberly Hamilton. If you want to talk about a team that is maybe a little bit down just in terms of their program's prestige, it's Kimberly, right? I mean, they are a perennial 1 seed. This year they're a 3. That's a tough second round matchup for a team like Hamilton that I think that probably believes that they have a good chance to get to state. That's a good one to watch. And then I'll kind of tee up the next one for Nick, because I want to talk about a little Wanakee, McGuanago, 2 big time programs. Wanakee escaped round 1. Maybe they're refocused, re-energized, but I'll set the table there for Nick.
Yeah, Mac, I love it, man. 2 of the top, what would you say, 7, 8 programs that we've really seen in the last 10, 15 years. Obviously, a lot of ties here. You've talked about McQuantico a good amount. Wanakee, my alma mater. They've got the recent Badgers PWO. McCoy Smith. I think that, this will be one I'll be tracking from afar. I'll be traveling down to Illinois, but potentially, certainly a top 3 or 4 game really of the weekend. And I think whoever can kind of play a little bit more their style. Obviously, the Warriors didn't look like themselves last week. Definitely a decent shot to potentially get back to Madison going forward in this one, guys.
Yeah, and the team I'm always watching is Bayport. I think that, you talk the last 10, 15 years, that program has done some really big things, put out a lot of high caliber prospects, and, they're in that side of the bracket with Franklin. I'm expecting them to beat Milwaukee Reagan this weekend to set up a matchup between Franklin and Bayport that I think could be a really good one next weekend. But hey, maybe it won't happen, because that's why they play the game. And that's why we get together here every week on the Badger247 show to talk about all that great high school football, all the recruiting, everything happening on the field, on the court, and more. We appreciate everyone tuning in here. Make sure you are subscribed to the Badger247 site for all those great message boards, insights from John and Nick and Payne. Even I'll occasionally chime in over there. So, but we want to thank you for tuning in here. Subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. And so until next time, we'll see you on the boards.